Welcome to episode 235 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from Thrill of the Wild and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
And I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak Wow on Twitter.
All right, today is Sunday, March the 6th, 2016, and we are broadcasting live on twitch.tv. You can participate in the live chat room where our lovely moderator, Ollie Saunders, is there to take your questions. And we've got another good show planned for you today. Hopefully, maybe we'll see. Roger Brown expressed some interest. This was a couple weeks back after our last show about coming on and talking about the alpha. We never really firmed things up with him, so we'll see if we can't get him on. Maybe he'll sneak on at some point in the show. But other than that, another 2 weeks have gone by, and I believe we got another brand new alpha build. Still alpha, not yet beta. With some more hunter changes, and I think marksmanship maybe got another set of iterations. I mean, it seems to me like that's a spec that's being worked on more than any of the others right now. So why don't we jump in and talk about some of the changes that have come in this latest build? So who wants to start? Bendak, you want to talk about maybe Black Arrow and what's going on with that?
Well, I'll start with actually the removal of Dark Ranger, because it ties into that. So Dark Ranger is no longer a talent. That was the talent that whenever you attack, there's a chance to summon a dark minion to fight for you temporarily. But even though that's gone, they took that functionality of summoning a temporary pet and put it into Black Arrow. So you fire Black Arrow at the target. Just deals damage, like a shadow damage dot. And it summons, the dot lasts for 8 seconds, and it summons a skeletal minion to taunt it for the duration. 15-second cooldown, so basically you get a pet tank for half the time.
And it also says in that tooltip that Black Arrow's cooldown is reset when you kill an enemy as well?
Right, so I guess you could have it up longer than that. Black Arrow used to have 3 charges, but that's been removed. It's just a standard dot now with the pet.
Yeah, and I like that. I think that'll make it easier to maintain. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, is this live now for you guys to test in the alpha, or is it something they've just announced and you're waiting for it? It does work now. Yeah. So I'm just wondering, in a situation where maybe you have multiple ads or something, in other words, you've got your Black Arrow on one and you kill, do you have to kill the target that Black Arrow is affecting, or you kill an enemy and it resets the cooldown of Black Arrow regardless of whether what mob the dot is on?
Actually, that's a good question. I've tested that specifically, but I've only tested the actual pet.
Yeah, I'd be interested
on the target dummy.
Right. I mean, it'd be interesting to see how that works. I mean, because is there a way where you can sort of have Black Arrow up on a high health target? You kill a low health target. In the meantime, you switch and Black Arrow resets. And can you put Black Arrow up on a new target, a different target at that point? My guess is that's probably not how they intend for that to be used. But it'd be interesting to see if it actually does work that way. But how is the pet overall? I assume you can have no control over it, right? It's just going to be kind of like a dire beast kind of animal but acts, in this case with marksmanship, more of a tank, or at least or a pet with growl on at this point than anything else.
Yeah, it's just a guardian. You don't control it. Just attacks your current target.
Right, but since it's not random when it comes out anymore, you have a little bit more control over. If you fire Black Arrow on a target, that's where the pet's going to go initially, at least.
Yeah.
So it's got a little bit more control, and it might. I have no idea if this is my speculation, but I have hopes that this might give us a chance for at least a little bit of utility in a weird raid situation. Since we don't have distracting shot anymore, and we don't have any taunts really, this will give us maybe an option for pulling off mobs in a really specific raid scenario.
I don't know. I can see them. I don't see that happening, just because. Can you imagine the chaos it's going to cause in like LFR and dungeons?
Perfect. Sounds good to me.
I'm just thinking like, because right now apparently it taunts anything, including a raid boss.
Oh
Obviously
yeah,
that's a
I'm
bug,
sure that'll be turned off, the raid boss, but
right? But even taunting just dungeon trash, I don't know, that could lead to a lot of problems because it's not like the hunter can even turn off the growl.
And it's a level 15 talent, so what is it competing with at this point? I mean, I'm just wondering, is this going to be something where, is it the obvious choice on this tier, or just something you might want to consider?
yeah, I mean, I feel like it's only right now the obvious choice for leveling. I don't think it has a place in raiding at the moment. Black Arrow is tuned fairly low for damage, even with the added damage from the pet. It's not a ton, so it's hard to see it competing with. What's on that tier? That's Steady Focus.
Steady focus and true aim is the other one, it looks like.
Right, the single target damage goes up. Is that right? True aim. Yeah.
Yeah, for every successive arcane marked or aim shot used to attack the same target, those shots deal 2% more damage to the target, stacking up to 20 times. And it can only affect one target at a time. So we talked about that, I think, last time. And it seems like a pretty good talent. But I certainly agree for leveling. If you're going to level as marksmanship, that Black Arrow would be a great choice to have, just to get some protection out there for you, just to have some semblance of a pet. What does the Guardian look like? Is it an actual skeleton, or how does it? What have they chosen for a graphical model? Is it the same every time, or do they have like a few random things that they might toss in there?
It's a few random ones. There's like a skeletal dog, a skeletal eagle, which you can already tame one of those actually. And then what else is there? There's one or two other ones. There's just like some undead pets.
It's the same pets that were on the Dark Ranger talent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so just incorporated the two together.
Yeah, which is nice. It's just not a bad idea at all. I mean, it's a good way to, I guess, make Black Arrow a little bit more interesting. So now that Dark Ranger's gone, what have they replaced that with?
There's a new talent called Sidewinders, and it's basically, if I could sum it up, it'd be a combination between focusing shot, barrage, and chakrams from Diablo 3.
Okay, I'm not familiar with the Diablo 3, but the other two certainly. And I liked focusing shot. I thought that was, I hardly ever used it, but when I liked it as an ability.
Well, basically, it's a focus generator. It replaces arcane shot and multi shot entirely. So when you cast it, it generates 60 focus, and it basically hits everything in front of you, like in the same cone as like barrage would.
Okay. Wow.
And it marks all of those targets too. It's crazy.
Wait, so do you have to have somebody selected to do that, or is it like barrage where you don't have to target enemy?
Oh, I think you have to have someone selected, but it's just yeah, it just hits everyone like barrage does, and
and barrage, you need to target someone as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
right.
It also has 2 charges, so, and a 12-second recharge on that. It's pretty, especially when you combine it with other talents like trick shot. It's pretty crazy, because trick shot, basically any targets you have marked, when you cast aim shot, your aim shot will ricochet to all those marked targets, so, or vulnerable targets, whatever it's called.
And this is an instant cast ability, I should say, looking at it too. So that's pretty wild. So it's not even like it's channeled or anything like that.
Yeah, it's instant. Right now the graphics are a little screwy, but I'm sure they'll fix that. It's, I don't know, it just feels really powerful. What do you think, Delirium?
Yeah, I think it makes the rotation pretty interesting. I haven't gotten a lot of time to test it other than on a pure single target like target dummy type situation. So I'm still a little in the dark with how it will affect AoE, especially mass AoE or burst AoE in raid type situations. But yeah, it looks cool. It makes things much more interesting. just 60 focus, 2 charges, and no more arcane shot or multi shot is. I don't know. It's definitely interesting. There's a lot to be explored to see if it's going to be a big effect or not. But so far, I'm looking positive about it.
It sounds very cool. I mean, one thing to note on the tooltip, it says cannot hit the same target twice. So I guess it's only gonna. I mean, I guess the idea is if the target's moving or something like that, it
Right.
only get hit once. But like you said, I'm wondering, in terms of AOE, the fact that it generates 60 focus is crazy. But I mean, are you going to want to ever hit it back to back? I mean, in which case you'd be, generating too much focus at that. But there are AOE situations certainly where you spam multi-shot or do something like that. So I'm wondering if you would just, for the sake of doing damage and doing AOE, you would just go ahead and just, ignite 2 charges right away, even knowing that you're probably going to generate excess focus at that point. Or do you wait, or do you weave something else in there in between?
I think you'd leave something.
Yeah,
Because,
especially if you take barrage
like
or
you
something
said,
like that.
yeah. Barrage or volley too, or like trick shot, like I said earlier. Basically, you cast Sidewinders, it marks all the targets, and you cast Mark Shot, which makes all those targets vulnerable. And then if you have the trick shot talent, you can cast Aim Shot, and that Aim Shot will bounce off all the other targets. And then you can, it's because of all the passive focus regeneration we have now too. You can usually get off like 2 or 3 aim shots after just from casting a Sidewinder.
Wow. Which is nice too, and Barrage too, because Barrage costs 60 focus. So this basically, the minute you hit Sidewinder, you're pretty much guaranteed to have enough focus to cast a Barrage right after that if you'd like. So you could certainly do, like you say, Sidewinder, Barrage, and then Sidewinder again, and then Barrage. Well, you'd have to wait for the cooldown on Barrage, of course, but it does give you some option there.
Do we know the regen rate for Sidewinders? Like when do the charges come back?
It's 12 seconds.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, so essentially, it has a 12-second cooldown after you burn your second charge. Essentially,
But you can use 2 almost back to back, and it'll still take 20 per second. So you can use 1 every 12 seconds. However, that tends to work out.
Oh, so if you use 1 charge, well, and you wait 12 seconds, it'll recharge that.
Right. Yeah, you'll have 2 charges at the end of that 12 seconds.
Okay, that makes sense. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. What is so have they put in the decent animation for that? What does that would look like?
Yeah, it's kind of buggy at the moment. I wasn't able to. It wasn't even procking anything on my screen, and other people said it was, but it didn't look right. So I'm not sure what the intention is.
Right.
But it also kind of looks like the animation is superfluous. It doesn't actually affect the shot or what's. Like I said, everything gets hit once.
Sure.
It doesn't matter like where it zooms around the room.
But it'd be nice to have it look different than just a regular old shot, though. But it just seems sort of a weird thing to think. I'm just trying to imagine what that would look like coming off of a bow. When I think like Sidewinder, I'm thinking like you're launching a missile with like a big shoulder cannon or something like that, which isn't going to be the case here. Although that would be kind of cool if you just like whipped out some bizarre shoulder cannon and launched your Sidewinder.
I want a flying squirrel. I'll be honest.
Oh, that's a good idea. I like that. A little sugar glider coming out of our bow.
Yep, there you go.
Yeah, right now it shoots these like spinny green things. So I don't know if that's a final effect or if they're going to change that or not. But yeah, because right now you kind of shoot it and all of them go towards the same target. So but all the targets still get hit. So hopefully they change it so the little green things go and hit all of them.
Yeah, that would be good. I mean, I'd be curious to see, like, almost in a PvP situation or something, will it actually follow your target like a missile, or is it just going to be a strict cone of area, and if someone leaves that cone, they'll avoid the damage. Probably that latter, I guess. But it does sound like a very interesting talent, to be sure.
Yeah, and there's also that other talent that we probably haven't talked about on the show before, called Patient Sniper. It's relatively new. It's in a level 75 tier. It increases your maximum focus by 30. and it changes how mark shot works. Instead of doing like a stacking vulnerable debuff, it provides you like a bigger stack all up front, but it's a shorter duration. So when you combine that with Sidewinders, you get a little more, wiggle room without capping your focus.
Right, and it looks like a lot of the raid testers are looking at Patient Sniper. It seems like it's much simpler to use, and you don't have to rely on that RPPM proc.
Yeah, and just for everyone out there, you said it's a level 75 talent, so it's competing with Careful Aim, which of course is the one we're sort of familiar with now, where targets above 80% health, Aim Shot, and Arcane Shot, Mark Shot, Multi Shot have a 20% increased critical strike chance, and it says those critical strikes deal additional 20% damage. Although it's interesting though, if you are going to take Sidewinders, you lose some value out of Careful Aim, I would think, right? Because you're not going to have multi-shot, nor are you going to have arcane shot. So two of the abilities that are affected by that you wouldn't have. So I think it sounds like you lose a little bit of value there, unless Sidewinder impacts it. But I don't know that it will.
Yeah. Well, the main thing is that the aim shot, I guess, and mark shot.
Yeah.
Right, and then the other ability on that tier is Heightened Vulnerability, giving you 3 stacks at once. So both of those kind of fit together, Patient Sniper and Heightened Vulnerability, to make a pretty interesting choice. Either getting to 3 stacks is a little easier, or you don't work on getting to 3 stacks.
Right. And I like that. I mean, it looks like that tier is giving you some decent choices to make. I suppose one will probably end up being better than the other. That tends to be the case with these DPS type of talents. But at the moment, and it's still early in the testing phase, that it seems like there's some options there to make some creative choices here. But let's see what else. I know we kind of glossed over it. Headshot was another one that is new or changed this iteration as well. I think.
Yeah, they just changed how much damage it's doing based on your focus level. So there's nothing really exciting there.
Yeah, it's also a level 100 talent now. It used to be like 75, I think. It also has a longer cooldown now, 30 seconds. Used to be 10 seconds.
Yeah, I see that. So it's instant cast. 30. This is the one we. So is this now fully implemented? This is the one that was. We had some question about, right, because of the range, like 20 to 100 focus, and I think the concept, correct me if I'm wrong, was the more focus you had, the more powerful the shot.
Yes, and that's still the case.
Wait, so do you have to be at 100% focus to do the max damage, or
to do the max damage? Yes.
Okay, so you actually do want to cap before you hit this, or?
Well, not necessarily, so it's going to do, and as with all of the abilities we're talking about, none of this is in its final iteration. They're going to do damage tuning, so we don't know what's going to be the best, but it's going to do some amount of damage per focus, and we'll probably try to look at where's the most efficient place to use headshot. If at 100 focus it might do more damage, but it takes so much more focus that it's not worth it. So you use it at 20 instead, where it takes almost no focus, or a net of no focus, since the one GCD returns you 10 to 15 focus at the same time. So yeah, it's kind of going to depend on how they tune it. Right now, it still does a lot of damage at 20 focus. Just depends on whether you have focus to burn and how much you have, I guess, in your rotation.
Right. And again, it also is going to compete with the Sidewinder talent now as well. Something to consider there. Yeah, headshot's one of those that may end up. You wonder if it's going to get. I don't know if they'll get rid of it, but if it'll get changed, especially like you said, once the damage tuning happens, and as you say, people start figuring out when the best place, the best focus point is to actually use it, then it loses some of its I don't know, value in the sense that no one's ever going to use it at 100 focus. Everyone's going to try and use it at that perfect focus number. And once people know what that number is, that's all they'll ever do, and they may not play around with it too much after that. But I guess in some ways it makes it a little bit harder to do too, because you've got to sort of really pay attention to your focus and try and wait for that perfect moment in order to use it, and not do it too soon or not do it too late.
With also the way marked shot is working, or not marked shot, but hunter's mark is working, it kind of changes the usefulness of headshot. I think with the previous iteration, it was great to have headshot and just dump all of your focus, because then you were going to spam a bunch of arcane shots and try and proc that hunter's mark.
Mm-hmm.
And now with the new iteration, spamming more arcane shots doesn't help you get more hunter's mark, or you won't get a quicker hunter's mark proc because of it. So headshot maybe not as valuable if you're not spamming all those arcanes.
Interesting. Now, was volley changed at all this time? I noticed it was in the notes here. What did they do to that talent?
I think they just implemented it, right? Because now you can use it on alpha.
Oh, okay.
It does very poor damage as far as I could tell.
It's always been there. It's just it actually did worse damage before this. Yeah.
Yeah. So still a neat idea. Hopefully it will be worth using for hunters who liked it.
I liked it, although it seems like this implementation is a little bit different, correct? I mean, now it's an instant cast versus a channeled ability like it was before.
Yeah, they've also recently added, like, they updated the graphics a bit, so it looks a little cooler. It's basically wherever you place it down, like a bunch of little arrows fall on the ground, and then bigger arrows fall on all the targets. So it looks pretty cool. It's just, right now it's not comparable to Barrage in terms of damage.
Right. And hopefully that'll change. I mean, and it costs a heck of a lot of focus too. I mean, it's 80 focus, versus 60 for Barrage. Not that Barrage is cheap by any means, but 80 focus is quite a bit.
Yeah, I hope it's worth using, because even if it's not necessarily better than Barrage, there might be situations where it's nicer to have, especially just if you don't want to pay attention about worrying about Barrage hitting something.
Right.
Just so you could just drop a volley down, and you're doing like raid traps, just keep dropping volleys down and finish your supper or whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Barrage is channeled, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so this one is, if it's you set it and forget it, you could do it and then actually fire more shots. It doesn't interrupt your rotation. Well, besides the heavy focus dump.
That's true, yeah. You can like drop it down and then do something else.
I mean, I always like the idea of having an AoE ability where you didn't actually have to target a specific mob. That's what I always liked about volley. You could just sort of put it in a place and then let it go versus.
Yeah, this might see more use on high movement fights, I think, because then you could drop it, move, reposition, and then regen your focus regens a little bit too, right? I mean, versus Barrage, where you would have to cancel your channel to move. So it might be situational. I don't know.
And that'd be fine. Like I said, I guess it sounds like, from what Bendak and Delirium, what you're saying is the damage right now just is non-existent. So in its current state, no one would ever take it. So it definitely needs some tuning in order to be worthwhile. But it would be nice to kind of have that choice for certain situations where you might want to take it, where and I think I'm okay with that. I don't mind having abilities that you swap in here or there, but don't necessarily need to use one thing 100% of the time. I would guess that Barrage, though, would probably be preferred, certainly for probably most raid encounters. I'm guessing that would be the choice over volley.
Hey, but speaking of movement, I noticed one that I don't think we got to talk. I think it just got implemented right after our last show. So, but I didn't catch it for the show notes here. Explosive Shot is a relatively new ability or talent. which is, as far as I can think of, the first kind of skill shot that we've had, like that you have to actually aim and hit a target in maybe in all of WoW. I'm not sure. I guess
Well,
traps maybe, but
so what is it? So how has it changed now? Because obviously we're all familiar with it for survival, and it was just an instant shot and a dot, and I mean,
right.
what
So
is
this
it? So
has
what is it now?
very little to do with the old survival mechanic. Basically, you shoot a missile forward, and it moves at, I don't know, something like between 10 and 20 yards a second. Not very fast, so you can kind of time it. And then you have to detonate it once it gets to your target. So, you know, if you're 30 yards away, maybe it's a second later that it hits, it gets to your target and you detonate it. And anything that it's within their hitbox, it will do 1,000% of attack power as fire damage. And it will also damage anything within 8 yards of it, an 8-yard radius around it. So if you're at 8 yards, I think it does about half damage, so about 500% attack power, which is still quite a lot. I mean, more than Sidewinder's doing or anything like that. Certainly a lot more than multi-shot. And with it scaling between about 50% damage and 100% damage at 0 yards away.
Wait, so they basically made an ability that you can't use while you're on Wi-Fi?
Maybe, yeah. It does look like it's going to be pretty hard if you have a high latency.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I forgot if you mentioned this, but when you shoot it, it doesn't actually shoot towards your target unless you're facing them.
Oh, right, yeah, it shoots straight
Yeah.
out from you. So it doesn't it doesn't have to be targeted at all.
Yeah. So it's based on your character's facing. So if you're strafing around or something, you might have to, stop for a second, reposition so you're shooting it right where you want to. And I found too that when you shoot it, if you don't detonate it in time, I'm guessing that's 40 yards. It just kind of disappears.
Right, yeah, it's at your max range. It just goes away.
I was kind of hoping that didn't happen. I was kind of hoping it
you
just
could
keep
shoot
going.
it across a battleground.
Yeah, exactly. Shoot it across Alterac Valley.
Anyway, I don't know how useful it's going to be in Raid yet, but it was kind of fun to try and test and see what all I could hit. It's very weird to get the timing down, but yeah, it was fun. Maybe a little silly, but it was fun to do.
Yeah, it's kind of clumsy, but just the fact that if you don't detonate it in time, it just fizzles out, and then facing your character. But when it's pretty fun though when you blow it up, because it's like the whole screen shakes and everything. That's pretty neat.
Does it affect flying targets, or I mean, how does it work on flying targets, or targets anyway that are ahead above you or something like that?
I didn't test, so I don't know.
Neither, yeah.
It does. It doesn't shoot up if you're looking up, though. It just shoots straight ahead of you along the ground.
Okay, so
no idea.
Definitely not seeing use in any fights where the boss flies up or something like that.
Yeah, probably not.
It still seems like a fun ability, and I'm guessing too that once you launch it, you can go and fire other things, and
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's not super slow. Pretty much, if you're in range, it'll be. I think it's within the GCD, or maybe you'll push back, a half second on the GCD.
Yeah, I think it'd be nice if they had on the effect of the projectile, they had like a circle around it or something, so you could sort of see if it's detonating area. So it'd make it easier to judge when to pull the trigger or pull the detonator.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I just looked this up. This is a Marksman 45 talent. What's it competing against?
So we got exotic munitions, which is still the same as it is currently, and trick shot.
And trick shot seems like a pretty good ability. No, I mean, aim shot will now also ricochet and hit all vulnerable targets for 30% of normal damage. So it basically turns, aim shot into sort of an AOE ability in that situation.
Yeah,
potentially.
It does some slight AOE without interrupting your priority target kind of burning. So you don't have to switch to using something like multi-shot, and you can still pad a little extra AoE damage, which is nice.
Yeah, it's really nice with Sidewinders just because of how easy it is to get everything marked and vulnerable. Without Sidewinders, I mean, it's kind of less interesting to me, but just because marking multiple targets is not very reliable.
But yeah, so the explosive shot though, yeah, that's fun. I'll have to definitely play around with that. And I don't think it costs any focus either, right? If I read that right.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
30-second cooldown, which makes testing it kind of obnoxious. You got to wait forever to try again. When I was testing, I found it's pretty easy to hit your primary target for the full value, because it doesn't have to be exactly on the target. It has to be within its hitbox. So especially on raid bosses, they usually have pretty ridiculously large hitboxes, so the melee can, I don't know, do whatever it is melee do. So I think that's going to be pretty easy to do, but getting it to, I don't know, figuring out how to hit the other targets is a lot more difficult, especially because if you're a couple of yards in front or a couple of yards behind, you'll still get a full value on your primary target, but you might completely miss a target that you thought was only 7 or 8 yards away.
It's interesting. It'd be cool if you could actually have like a little remote control, if you will, and actually move it around. But he said the shot doesn't go slow enough for really to warrant that. But that would make it even more, And I don't know how you would manage that in the course of rotation, but I'm thinking like one of those little zeppelins or something. You just flip it around like a little toy. So what else do we want to talk about today? I know, Delirium, you had talked about Hunter's Mark changes. I thought this was kind of interesting to let people know about, and the RPPM changes. So what's happening with that?
So this was about a week ago or so. Several hunters got on the alpha forums and were talking about how it was just how unreliable it was to proc Hunter's Mark, and Celestalon actually responded and did a decent job explaining kind of what their vision was for it. Not everybody was happy with it, but at least they explained it, which is nice. Always good. So basically, it's not you no longer have a % chance to proc Hunter's Mark. Like I think a couple of iterations ago, you had a 50% chance to proc it every time you cast Arcane Shot. So about half of your shots would proc it. You could go several without, or you could proc it 3 times in a row, no problem. And now it's on an RPPM, which basically means you can, well, if you like weave an aimed shot in between them, between your arcane shots, then you'll have however many more seconds your aim shot took, you'll have that much more chance to proc it on the next one. So you should, it's right now set at 6 RPPM, which is affected by haste. So if you have 20% haste, you're going to get about 7.2 procs per minute, which is once every 8 or 9 seconds. I don't have a calculator around me. But basically, you're not going to have higher chances to proc it by spamming a bunch of arcane shots. You'll have the same chance if you hit arcane shot once every 3 or 4 seconds as if you hit it every GCD.
Okay. God, it sounds more complicated than it needs to be. I'm just so used to, whatever happened, I just, hitting a target, boom, there's Hunter's Mark. So, or applying it manually. So what is the impact of this, I guess? Is it, what is, how is this playing out now in the alpha? Are we seeing, do the Hunter's Marks, are they seem like coming at a reasonable rate, or is it seem slow?
A lot of what's happening is, as we said earlier, people are taking Patient Sniper, which really should be called Impatient Sniper, because it's for people who don't want to wait for procs. Yeah, so I don't know. It's it doesn't sound like a lot of people like it. I haven't heard from that many people, But waiting 7 seconds between or at least it felt like the goal was to build as many stacks as possible, which up to 3, as fast, and then cast a bunch of aimed shots. And this is kind of making it so that's not really an option. You have to weave stuff in between. There's no reason to just sit there and try to proc or get all of your hunter's marks to proc immediately. There's no benefit in doing that in the long run unless you just get crazy lucky. So yeah, I don't know. It feels all right. It's just going to take a while to get used to and kind of figure out what their goal is for the spec, what it's supposed to feel like now.
Yeah, I agree. It just takes some time getting used to, because before this, I would always be fishing for procs so I could get that stack up to 3 right away. Now I think you just have to accept that it'll happen eventually.
Which it might be good for the spec, because I do think it's good to. It feels better to be weaving in some aimed shots even before you get to 3 stacks. It feels like that's, I don't know, I shouldn't just be hitting aim or arcane shot even though I'm at 100 focus. It's better to be kind of dumping focus constantly or weaving that dump at least. So I do like that aspect. I'm not sure what else what else it's going to end up like.
Right. Though with heightened vulnerability and patient sniper, it's not really a factor either, because you're probably going to use one of those talents.
And was it like this from the beginning, or is this like a recent change that they did, or in other words, did they just come out and people noticed it and they just explained it, or?
No, it was just a week and a half ago. I can't remember what build number or anything, but it was fairly recent.
And how was it working originally?
So originally it was just you had a % chance to proc on each arcane shot. So there was no kind of catch-up mechanic or safety net. I don't know what do they call that thing where bad luck mechanic or
right.
Originally you just had to hope to get a proc, but it was a high enough chance that usually it wasn't a problem.
That it worked out pretty well, right? In other words, but there's always that chance, I guess, that someone would get on one of those bad luck streaks and
right,
wouldn't see one. So this attempts to kind of, I guess, mean that eventually you will get one at some point. Well,
yeah. So I think after 10 seconds, I'll have to look at my chart somewhere, but I think after about 10 seconds, it's guaranteed.
Well,
so you'll have reached 100% chance to roll it at some point.
Right. And hopefully whatever you're fighting is still alive. And
right, yeah. Assuming it's a raid boss.
You'll still have something to kill that needs that, you could benefit from you having, putting that hunter's mark on there. But, and I said probably, like I said, a raid encounter, which is, mostly how we view these things.
Right. There was a comment on the Alpha forums, the Legion forums, whatever they're called, where somebody was saying, well, this makes it harder for target switching, because if you just got a proc on the boss and need to switch targets, you won't have any of that. Like with RPPM at the beginning of the fight, you'll of course have a much higher chance to proc it immediately. But just when target switching, you don't have that built-in protection. And Celestalon's only real response was, well, that's not how RPPM works. So I'm not sure if he meant to say more and forgot, or what how they expect that to work. Yeah.
I wonder if the RPPM is calculated on the target rather than the source.
Right. It doesn't look like it, but maybe that could be.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of mystery, it seems, behind some of these fancy math calculations.
Right. Yeah, so basically there's 3 things that increase your chances to proc it. There's how long it's been since your last proc, how long it's been since your last chance to proc it, and the built-in bad luck protection. So of those 3 things, hopefully something is going to help you out.
Well, we'll see. Like I said, maybe they'll keep that. It sounds like it's well, I don't know. We'll have to see how that all plays out. It's interesting though. I mean, I get the sense they kind of like the whole idea of their RPPM, especially pretty much all the trinkets. A lot of the trinkets function that way now, and everything else. That it is a mechanic that they're happy with. So also this week, moving on, we had at least one blue tweet. Someone had asked about pets and said, "So what's going on with Hunter pets post raid buff removal? Are they just a cosmetic choice now? What about exotics?" And the answer was, pets that you tame are primarily a cosmetic and story choice for you. Exotics tend to have an extra utility ability.
Right, so I don't know if that means they're going to add extra utility for each exotic pet, or if just the ones that already have extra utility are going to get to keep it, which I guess that's good.
Are they not normalized right now? I'm not familiar with all the exotics and all their abilities, but
I think most of the exotics already have a utility.
Right, so Spirit Mend is obviously the popular one. And Core Hounds have that weird thing, flaming something or another.
That thorns, basically. I think they all have one. They usually have like one buff and two utility, or two buffs and one utility. But I guess the weird part is all the other non-exotic pets. So I guess they're not getting a replacement for having a buff, so you're going to have a few pets like turtles that do have a special ability. Right. Unless they're going to remove those from turtles because they're not exotic, so I don't know how that's going to work.
Right, and also cranes would be the big one right now with the battle res,
right,
which is not exotic since WoD.
Right.
Yeah, and I mean, and that was one of the nice things about Warlords of Draenor was that you could basically get all the buffs and all the abilities without having to be beast mastery, right? I mean, you could run a survival or marksmanship and have that battle res, that combat res. But it'd be interesting to see if they revert that. I mean, again, with marksmanship, it doesn't much matter, right? Because you don't have a pet, so it's really only survival that would be affected by this. So be curious to see what they do. But it was nice, being able to provide that utility with whatever spec you were playing, and not have to rely on being a beast mastery hunter.
Yeah.
But and again, the buff removal we've talked about, it's just game wide, so it's not a nerf to pets per se. But again, maybe we'll lose the combat res entirely. That might be something else they could do. Maybe they'll just take that away from us as it is.
Yeah, right now in PvP, if you're playing 3-player and against any healing team, I think what's the Mortal Wounds? Is that the name of the debuff, the healing debuff? Yeah. So that's a pretty big deal right now. And kind of seems like the go-to for most PvP hunters if you're fighting against a team with that. Even if it means not getting a regular buff, so you miss out on your 5% crit or whatever, 5% mastery. So yeah, I'll be interested to see if that gets taken away also. It seems very strong right now, so if just a couple pets have that, and compared to other pets not having anything, that's certainly not just a cosmetic choice.
No.
But also doesn't have any effect on a lot of the game.
Yeah. Well, that's the question right now. I mean, are there any pets with given the way they stand now that you would just feel like you'd want to bring to a raid or something just because of what they can do? Where it would just be kind of beneficial to have versus being able to bring whatever you feel like bringing.
Probably just like the battle res, because there's nothing really else with that type of utility. Well, I guess Core Hounds, I think they still have the Bloodlust. So there's that too.
Oh, that's right. Yes, they do. And I don't know. I don't know who else got that. Who else got that? Was it not spore bats? Was it the other things that look like spore bats?
Yeah, nether rays.
Nether rays.
Yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do because there's a lot. I'm looking at the pets now, and a lot of them have these extra abilities, even non-exotics. Like even if it's just like a snare or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they'll give all the other ones something. I don't know.
Right.
Or
I mean,
go ahead.
I was saying even some pets too, like have interrupts and things like that. Correct too.
Well, not anymore. They shouldn't.
Did they get rid of that? I don't know. I've been marksmanship for so long now that I haven't even looked at a pet. I think I went and did the Apexis, weekly that they had this week, and I usually if I go to the Tana jungle, I'll go as Beast Mastery and pull out a pet, but that's about it. Other than that, I've been marksmanship for so long now that I haven't really paid much attention to the pets.
Yeah, there's no interrupts. It's there's like a snare, mortal wounds, and then damage reduction shell, which a few pets have. And then there's monkeys with their dodge chance.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh, good old monkeys.
Mm.
Oh, and then of course there's birds with trick. That's pretty important.
I like the tricks. The tricks are fun. They should give every pet something like that. I think every pet family should have some sort of trick. I mean, a few of them. It's weird too. It's like it feels random. Like the bears, what do they have? Sleep or something like that. And the foxes have a little dance that they can do. But I always think those are kind of fun.
Gives you something to do while the raid leader's trying to explain the fight. If you don't want to pay attention.
That's what Eyes of the Beast used to be for too. We need that back. So you could just run around as your pet while the raid leader was, explaining something long and intricate.
So I think it's rogues have this ability where they can see through somebody else's eyes. Or like it moves their camera so their camera's behind the other player.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not aware of this. I had no idea this was going on. But so whenever I'm bored waiting for raid to start or for the boss to be explained, I just go look for fun places to disengage to. And apparently all the rogues in my raid have been making a game of figuring out where I am based on using whatever that ability is. So it was kind of fun to find out. Silly little rogues.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was Priest that had that.
Yeah, it might be Priest. You're right.
Yeah.
Now that I think about it. One of those support classes. They all look the same.
Yeah, priests get all the toys like that. Then they get the life grip as well. Not fair.
And what's the thing that makes you confess?
Confess, I think.
Oh yeah, sounds good.
Well, that's it for sort of all the news that we had this week. We do have some listener Q&A and actually have time to answer some of these listener questions. This is cool. So the first one comes from Garbwire. It says, I have played a hunter from the start. I love it, but WOD is the low point in all my playtime. Will it be getting better, aka not just face rolling and getting back to weaving your shorts? And I think they meant shots, but I like the fact that they were weaving your shorts. I don't know. I'm not sure what weaving your shorts would be, but maybe in Legion we'll see the change for that. But thoughts on that? I mean,
yeah, I mean it's hard to compare it to what huntering is right now in WOD or WOD. I've never heard it spelled out or pronounced out. Yeah, I don't know if it's getting better. It's very different. If that's what you want, you've got it. Every spec is completely different.
Yeah.
It is a lot about weaving your shorts. But yeah, I don't know. It definitely doesn't feel like the old mana days. I think a lot of people who've been playing from the start, or at least a few people, really like mana, and I still see that on the forums a lot. People saying to bring back that play style. So it's even less like that than what it is with our current build.
Yeah, I'm not looking for them to bring back mana, but I will say this: I thought that mana was a little bit easier to manage than focus. I kind of enjoyed it a little bit, especially Wrath of the Lich King. I mean, I had a lot of fun playing my hunter in Wrath of the Lich King for a variety of reasons, and that was the last expansion where we had mana. But it's but it also felt simpler. I mean, you really didn't have to worry about your resource management much at all. So I mean, that was which you do now with focus. So I think focus probably makes more sense for the hunter, but but I did enjoy playing a hunter in Wrath of the Lich King throughout that expansion.
Yeah, I'd say the new Beast Mastery. I mean, it's not mana, but the fact that it's so cooldown focused, like cooldown based, it sort of is like that, but not really. It's a little different. Like you're not really thinking about your focus all that much because there's not much control. So it's just a bunch of cooldowns you're whacking.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's gonna be interesting to see too, especially since we don't have a lot of control as Beast Mastery over the focus regen. I mean, how easy they make it to manage, if you will. I mean, it sounds like I suspect that they'll just it will kind of take care of itself if you're using your cooldowns properly. That you really won't run into an issue, and it's probably not something you would need to think about too much.
Yeah, I mean, as it currently is, there are definitely times where if you cast too many Cobra shots, is that what the focus dome is called? Yeah, Cobra shots. Sorry, the terminology is confusing me again. Anyways, if you cast too many, then all of a sudden you can't cast your more important shots, and Cobra shot does very little damage. So there are definitely times where you want to be aware, I'm not going to have enough focus in a couple GCDs to cast my kill command, or whatever, insert important ability. So it definitely exists. It's just, it's a lot less than now. And instead of, I need to rebuild focus, you just, I need to not do anything for a couple seconds.
Yeah, there's a lot of that with both BM and survival.
Right.
Let's see. So BM Jaeger asks, you can move while barraging, right? Well, you certainly can in Warlords of Draenor. And that was the question. I mean, we haven't really talked about much. I mean, I assume, have they changed much in the way of abilities that we can fire while moving and remove some of that? Or is it pretty much the same as it is now?
I think aim shot is the only one that's different.
Right.
And it's the only movement penalty right now, as far as I can remember off the top of my head. Barrage is the same. You can move. Yeah.
All right. So that's good. I mean, it was a very movement friendly class, and I mean, of course, with survival being melee, I mean that sort of changes things anyway. I'd imagine most of their stuff's going to be instant anyway. I mean, you're going to be, glued to your target.
Disengage is an instant.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, we got another question from Garbwire. How are the robot pets? Number of them, news on them? Yeah, we talked about that last time. I mean, there's not many mech pets available yet, right?
No, but since last time I tamed a mechanical sheep, which is pretty cool.
Where are the mechanical sheep? Are they in some of the new zones or something that existed elsewhere?
No, this one is in Elwyn Forest, actually. There's that farm with there's like a farm way up on the top of a waterfall, and there's a bunch of sheep there, and one of them's a mechanical exploding sheep.
Yeah.
So basically, you just make sure you tame it before it reaches you and blows up, type thing.
And you rolled a new gnome hunter?
Or you can make a pre-made gnome hunter.
Oh, you can, and then go back and get it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know that. I know that spot you're talking about. And back when we used to do in Cataclysm, what was the raid? Was it Blackwing Descent? Is that what it was called? Anyway, so we used to I used to fly out of Stormwind and to fly there to the raid entrance, and I'd always stop on that little hill and blow up the little gnome sheep every night before raid as my little ritual. I was like that guy. It was great. I never thought of putting that in there, but yeah, if you haven't been up there, you should go up there. yeah, if you shoot the exploding sheep, it explodes and kills all the guy's sheep, and the gnome gets real angry at you and it's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, they even added a new model for the sheep.
So the next thing we'll have to wait and see too, and I don't think they have plans for this, but it'd be neat if engineers could actually create, one or two pets for hunters.
So there's been speculation about that I saw on the Petopia forums, because they discovered these new items, and it's not clear what they're for, but it looks like the item creates like a mechanical scorpion type thing, like that boss in Siege of Orgrimmar.
Oh,
What's it
cool.
called? Yeah, because there's like 4 different colors, and I'm like, I don't know if that's for an engineer created pet, but maybe, I don't know. It'd be kind of cool.
What was that boss called?
Iron Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's a mount too, right?
Right.
Yes, I think he drops off of. Well, now it's probably like that 1% chance off of what Garrosh, I guess, would drop it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have the items offhand, but basically what it sounded like was you use the item and it basically spawns one of these things. So, like I said, I don't know if that's a pet or not. I just saw the item, but it would be neat.
Yeah, that would be cool. Yeah, I think like the idea of an engineer that could make a hunter pet would be fun. Something that they could just sell on the auction house, a way to make some money or something. Or maybe it'd be an item, right? And it sort of spawns the pet, and you have to tame it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking.
That's what I was thinking it is too. I just don't know. I'm just guessing though, because there's nothing that says it's a pet. It's an item that spawns one of these things. So what else could it be for, right? It's probably be a hunter pet.
Yeah, exactly. So, and the last question of the day comes from BM Yeager, and he says, "Is Sidewinder applying vulnerable since it replaces arcane shot and multi shot?"
It hunters marks everything, and then you use mark shot to make them vulnerable. So, yes, but you have to press an extra button. So you do Sidewinders, then mark shot, and then they're vulnerable.
Which still seems pretty good, given that it's an AOE ability. I mean, if you can hit a good number of targets, it seems like you'd get some pretty good value out of that.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. It's just nice hitting everything like that. Is that it for questions?
Yeah.
That is it for questions. That's it for news. That's it for everything. So we're right at an hour. So unless you guys have anything else you wanted to bring up, I think maybe we'll close it out for this week and come back in another 2 weeks. So on that note, you have been listening to episode 235 of the Hunting Party Podcast. I'm Darkbrew from thebrewhall.com and the Brew Hall on Twitter.
I'm Delirium from thrillofthewild.com and at Delirium Hunts on Twitter.
I'm Bendak from Eyes of the Beast, Blizzard Watch, and Bendak WoW on Twitter.
All right, check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, or add our RSS feed to your reader, and we'll have all these links available in our show notes.
If you have a question or a topic you would like us to announce on the show, email us at huntingpartypodcast@gmail.com or send us a tweet at huntingpartypod.
All right, stay thirsty, my friends, and remember to drink your Dark Brew lager.
Siempre prestar la emoción de lo salvaje.
Keep your eyes on the beast.
For Azeroth.
Life stealer, that's just the cost of being awesome sauce. A dues payer, a boss slayer, I rock out with my lockout Viper to cheetah to dragon hawk. No time to waste, cause I can jump shot. BM, MM, and SB. I can rock out any tree. Never worried about my threat, cause I've got FD and misdirect. catching loose mobs in my traps. I never miss, cause I am hit capped. Cause I'm the hunter, not the marked. I'm the fighter, not the spark. I'm the kiter, not the kite. I'll top meters every fight. Rated handicap, dealing death. Just me, my gun, and my trusty bed. Now let's begin with Illidan, Osirian, and Gil'jadan, Magdamar, Asgalor, Gruul, Cthulhu, and Razorgore, Onyxia to Ragnaros. Which one have we killed the most? Kel'Thuzad to Malagos. We even killed a Kama's ghost. Feels like we're getting close, all that running as a ghost. Anubarak, Yogg-Saron, Thorian, Sartharian, Nyctherodon, Saphiron, Lucifer to Sulfuron, Archivon, Amalon, Coromon, Algalon. The faction champions, the death toll rolling on and on. Garvale, Executus, Chromagus, and Charexus. Moan, Lure, kill this. We won't stop till we kill our boss.
All my read skills, rock good on